with potentially the fight of the century coming up, and we already got into Team Bud. For this video, we're gonna have to get into the A side this time. Errol Spence Jr., one half of one of the biggest fights in all of boxing coming up. Errol Spence honestly has been around for quite a while, and this is his career defining fight right here. But before we actually get into that, we're gonna be giving a little bit of a background on Errol Spence. Before that, though, we're all takes no whiffs. I'm Christian, that's Alex, and just a couple of guys over here excited for one of the biggest fights in boxing history. Errol Spence Jr. He has three of the titles, I believe, in this undisputed
Hmm.
fight. And Errol Spence, honestly, he's been the welterweight king for quite a while now. He honestly has really a really solid resume for sure. And it all really started in 2012 when he made his debut against Jonathan Garcia, made easy work of him with a third round KO. And after a successful debut in 2013, he decided to take another dub against Luis Torres, doing the Hispanics dirty for some reason, and won by unanimous decision. That's a clean sweep in a 4 round fight. First round to go the distance. It's kind of funny saying the distance in a 4 round fight, though. It's like running a mile.
Oh yeah, it's kind of weird saying a 4 round fight going the distance, but hey, I mean, all these guys start out with 4 round fights and then they move up to 6, 8, 10, whatever. So I mean,
Mhm.
you got a little work in right there. But moving on to later on in 2013 through 2016, he had a lot of fights. He had 17 fights, 17 wins. 15 out of 17 were stoppages. He handed Emmanuel Lartey his first career loss. It was in a unanimous decision win. He beat Chris Van Herden in an eighth round KO. This dude in his last two fights, he hasn't fought since 2022, but he fought Jaron Ennis and Connor Ben. So those are two pretty good names, to be honest. And then he also beat former champ Chris Algieri. I know I'm going to say
Algieri.
this wrong. Chris Algieri. I always say that name wrong, but that's a really solid name too. He won a world title, but then he lost to Manny Pacquiao right after that, and then he kind of ran into some other top level fighters too. But that Kelbrook fight with Errol Spence Jr., that was a really, really good fight.
It was. Kell Brook definitely made it competitive for Spence, I feel like, but then Spence broke him down, and honestly, that was kind of a brutal stoppage. I'm pretty sure Kell Brook broke his orbital bone in that fight.
Yes,
Like,
he did.
yeah, that was definitely brutal. Honestly, you could argue that that was the start of Kell Brook's downfall. And it's just funny. I know, kind of unrelated to Spence, that you mentioned Connor Ben and then Chris Algieri being on Spence's resume, because Connor Ben, one of the most brutal KOs I've ever seen was him against Chris Algieri not too long ago. But that's just unrelated. But as for Spence, better than both of those guys. That's all I got to say. And after the Kell Brook victory, he beat another recognizable name in Lamont Peterson in 2018. He did that by a seventh round stoppage. Peterson's corner decided to call the fight. It was another beatdown in Spence's favor, and that was Spence's first title defense. So definitely a highlight fight for him. I feel like up to this point.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think Carlos Ocampo was definitely another really good fight for him. Gave him his first career loss, was a first round KO. And Errol Spence, he is one of the best body punchers in all of
Mhm.
boxing. And for this one, I know it was a first round KO, but he just went to the body the whole time and then eventually ended him with a brutal body shot.
Yeah, honestly, when it comes to body punches, Spence is a master of that. But as for his next major fight in 2019, Mikey Garcia jumping up 2 weight classes to fight Errol Spence. It seems like suicide at first, but honestly, Mikey Garcia did it for the bag because
Cashed out.
Errol Spence was already a big name at this point. And honestly, Errol Spence is a big draw. Mikey Garcia saw that,
He was
said, "Let me
39
cash
and
out
0,
real quick."
wasn't he, at this point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was like it was promoted, and on paper it seemed like a huge fight, but this was such a mismatch that Mikey Garcia, he just did it for the paper. Can you blame him? Not really, because he actually made it to the final bell. Surprisingly, he Spence basically not basically Spence swept this fight, which is crazy against a fighter of Mikey Garcia's caliber, but he just didn't belong in that ring with Spence.
No, he definitely didn't. But I can tell you someone who did was Sean Porter, because Sean Porter definitely pushed Errol Spence in this fight. I don't really know if this was a split decision, to be honest. I think Errol Spence probably should have won this fight just by unanimous decision. But Sean Porter definitely did bring it to him in this fight. But in the 11th round, it was a big left hand that put Sean Porter down.
With as competitive as that fight was, that knockdown right there, I don't want to say it made the difference, but it kind of painted the picture that yeah, Spence did
Mhm.
have the edge overall in this fight. Huge win for Spence back in 2019. And then after this fight, that's when Spence had his big accident with the big car accident. Honestly, lucky that he made it out in the condition that he made it out and was able to return to boxing. That was a big scare. And honestly, the timetable of his return was super fast because just in the next year,
A lot faster than I
it
thought.
matched up against Danny Garcia in 2020, just after the accident, not too long. And honestly, that was a miracle how like unscathed he left that accident. That was crazy. But handled Danny Garcia easily, I feel like. Wasn't the most entertaining fight. Like Spence didn't look special, but like he still levels above Danny Garcia. So that was easy for him.
Oh yeah, I was honestly super happy Spence could get back in the ring and be fighting at a high level, and he showed it, cased it in that Danny Garcia fight too, and then in the Ugas fight. This is a very interesting fight because Spence got touched up a bit, and there's actually a funny moment in this fight that if you watch the Showtime All Access in the fifth round when Spence got kind of caught and his mouthpiece went flying out, I kind of found a very funny moment. Spence said that when he was looking at his mouthpiece, he was thought it was his teeth that fell out because apparently in his accident he had to get some replacement with his teeth. And then he was only really worried about his mouthpiece at that point because he thought his teeth had fallen out, and he didn't even care about getting knocked out at that point. Which I wouldn't say he almost did, but he did get rocked twice right there. So it was a very interesting moment. But Spence at the end of the day ended
Mhm.
this with a nice 10th round KO, a TKO.
Yeah, dominant performance against Ugas. To be honest, that little lapse, that little moment for Spence right there, though, can't have that against Terence Crawford. I'm gonna be completely honest, because honestly, the criticism to Ugas for not taking more advantage of that. He just landed a clean right hand, which sent Spence flying back, and then he was just. He should have took more advantage of that because that was his chance right there. Crawford is definitely going to take advantage of something like that. So pretty deep resume for Spence leading up to this point. Still, though, that one mistake right there, that's something he can't bring into this fight.
Oh yeah, and I think he's probably gonna not be worrying about that as much for this fight because if he is, he's probably not gonna be ended up winning this fight. But I'm really looking forward to be getting it more into this fight. We'll be having our preview come out later on. So if you are looking forward to that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And also if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button because we appreciate all the support.
Oh yeah, any and all support is appreciated. And go ahead and leave a comment if you're Team Spence. Let us know why you think Spence is going to win this fight. What he needs to make the difference in this fight. Just can't wait for this fight, and definitely going to be previewing this. Let our thoughts be known about how we think the fight itself is going to go, how stylistically these two are going to match up. Can't wait to get into that though. Until then, peace.
Peace.